Hi, Tea Society. Welcome back to the Antisocial Planet. Today we're checking out Bleach, episode 250, and we're dealing with a new big bad who has just awoken, been allowed to come back after a pretty long time of being sealed away, and is looking a bit mummified, which has only ever turned out well for any hero protagonists that we've dealt with throughout the history of fiction. But Ichigo dropping in fashionably late as usual, so I'm assuming we're going to be dealing with a conflict, a fight of some kind, but we also got a few episodes left in this arc, so I don't know what's going to happen. In 3, 2, 1, go. Oh yeah, we still have some stuff to deal with, I guess, with like the Byakuya of it all. Oops. Nothing, don't worry about it. And I guess we got the captains en route as well. After they break out of that fiery prison. So there's still some things we need to wrap up before we get to like the final showdown. I am interested about like the I guess belief of Muramasa's Soul Reaper, because we know that he had a rebellion, hence, you know, Zanbakuto Rebellion, right? But and like why Muramasa would have like a certain rebellious lean to him, right? Because he gets that like from the Soul Reaper, you know, as a Zanbakuto. But I'm wondering what the backstory is gonna be. Weren't we gonna get backstory? Flashback? Now that I'm remembering. So like I'm curious to know what got us here, because usually we get a backstory, right, at some point. Is it gonna be a monologue though, or are we gonna get a villain speech? Yeah, like that's probably fine. I mean, Muramasa has only seemed completely mentally stable. You know, like never have I ever looked at him and gone, you know what, that looks like we might have an issue with stability. And he's gonna do it anyway. I don't know, y'all seem pretty chill. Oh, family drama? Is it a secret that there's a relation of some kind? He seems intense. I understand that we're dealing with like a war, a fight, and therefore he should be intense, but ooh. Right, this is gonna be the first time for us to see like what Muramasa was like, you know, pre personification. I like that it's whisper though, like the idea of, again, like causing, I don't know, discontent or whatever. And we get the controlling of like Zanpakuto, right? Like the weapons and everything. I do like the transition there too of like we get the red scarf and then we get the like just sound effects of what's happening because obviously there's some censorship happening at this point still with like Bleach, but I think that's a great way of like, you know, a wink and a nod to like what happened. I mean, this has got to be some interesting history, right, between these two. Ooh, I don't like that. I will restore peace no matter what. Oh. Yeah, I was gonna say people seem to know his family. The little smile. Is it just because they're like acknowledging his skill, or is it like because there's a more of a relation? I just feel like there's drama. Yeah. Because that kind of goes to the core of what the relationship between Zanpakuto and Soul Reaper is, right? You have to know like the heart of like why are you fighting? I also like the lighting here. We have like the light coming through the window, so he's like bright, and then Koga is like shadowed. Right? Like his background has more shadows in it. It's a great way of showing them like facing off with each other, but it's also like showing the disconnect between the two of them. It's always like there's like arrogance with Koga, but there's also like this superiority, you know, with like the power dynamics between the two of them. Interesting too that he has all the water internally. Like the ruins in a way. It's like platforms. I mean, I know they're columns, but it's like isolation within the waters, right? Yeah, I feel a little bit iffy about the whole protect peace thing. Not that that isn't a good thing inherently, but we said like no matter what, and that can get us into some unfortunate territory, right? When people are like, if they take that to heart, right? Like, there's one thing to say that, like, figuratively. It's another thing to, like, actually take it to heart and be like, I will do whatever it takes to uphold my beliefs. Oh, see, now we have, like, again, like, the shadows, but, like, there are darker shadows on Koga. Like, we're seeing more of that disconnect just visually. Seeing glorious deeds. I mean, we are, like, killing people, so I don't know if we would say, like, he's doing something necessarily good. I know that they're rebels, but, like, still people. And he likes, like, the attention, right? Like, he likes the way that people look up to him and say, like, he's amazing. Yeah, it's like the honor, right? Because we had before where he was overhearing people saying, like, wow, that's so amazing, and he smiled, right? Hello? No, that wasn't suspicious at all. No, we're suspicious now. I mean, we all know that Soul Society isn't always the most up and up when it comes to, like, morality. See? He's smiling again because he's been given, like, honor, right? To be, like, chosen as captain. But that's the acknowledgement he wants, right? We are implying a lot. Even if it's like, yeah, I would be given this job if they knew I was capable of it, right? But also, like, you know, doesn't mean that they, like, honor him or give him any kind of acknowledgement other than, like, you have the skills for it. We're gonna try and take him out. Sabotage? Not quite. I mean, a fight would be a good way to cover up a murder, you know? Like, if you wanted to be like, oh, he died in battle. That's gonna look a lot better than, like, we sent somebody to take him out. Oh, hello. So we could do this. We could materialize. Definitely seems this is what they were talking about before, right? Like Yamamoto. It's a little more nightmarish than the other Sabakto we've seen. That's so like scary though to be like you're going to be slain by your own weapon, but like also in a way like your own like I don't know, like heart in some way, right? Like the core of who you are, because there's something that motivates all of the Zanpakuto is like core to who the Soul Reaper is. Yeah, now you have a good framing. Because he did in fact kill them, and you witnessed it. Yeah. Y'all are willing to die for this? And there's no real way to like counter it, because like if they were slain by like their own weapons, it's like there's only one person who could do that. Can't be like, oh, this is obviously from like this weapon, right? Like Byakuya, right? Like that's like a very specific kind of ability, and like you wouldn't like mistake that for someone like killing themselves with their own weapon, right? So you could be like, no way that I did it, because clearly the wounds don't match up. Whereas like this, it's like I know that he actually did, but it's also like it's hard to convince people otherwise. Not very well, considering we're still dealing with it. Yeah, I can understand that too. Like, yeah, they're afraid of the ability, not just like the power, but also like again being manipulated by someone's weapon. Ah, so we're being watched, not just honored, and that's why he was just like you're implying a lot into his actions by promoting you to like captain. Yeah, you're gonna have to stay still. Except that we didn't. We have come from the future. I don't know, we're feeling a little bit isolating now. That explains why the mask was different, more stylistic than productive. Even before, though, he was talking, so I'm like, what's the point of this, like, covering over his mouth? I'm afraid he's gonna bite? I don't think that's... yeah. He's already awake. I think the time for a sneak attack has passed. Yeah. I was like, I don't know. Feels like we were kind of button heads there at the end of the flashback. Because he doesn't want to be controlled, right? But also, like, it kind of goes back to that needing, like, admiration and everything, right? Like, it has to be for him. And, like, I guess a little bit, like, the family name, right, that he's kind of working for. But I think that might be my favorite episode so far in this arc. I love a good flashback. I think it's why I love the, like, pendulum arc that we got and everything. But I love some of the framing that we got. Like I was saying, like, the symbolism of, like, Koga being more in the shadows, and the way that light kind of was used in the different panels, even with, like, his, like, captain father. I know that, like, translations are a little bit weird, and, like, the dynamics within you know, Soul Society can be a little bit less, like, literal, right? But the way that even, like, Koga, like, saw him was, like, with this backlighting, almost this, like, again, like, superior, almost like angelic kind of thing, right? And then that slowly, like, shifted as they continued to, like, get more and more distance between them, and it became less of, like, I want your praise and acknowledgement, and it became more of a, like resentment, right? I mean, I guess, like, we can't really get rid of Muramasa, right? Like, that's his Zanpakuto. They're gonna have to figure something out if we want to use our weapon. The way that Ichika just, like, materialized. Like I said, I think this might be my favorite episode because I always like getting some context. I like some world building. I like when we pull apart, like, a character. And I think that it's a good way of setting up Koga now that we've had the story, right? What Soul Society and Yamamoto has told us, right? Like what the official explanation for him is and like what happened is that has been like kept secret. I understand that it's like filler arc. They have to be like, oh yeah, we had to keep it a secret because they have to explain like why it's never been mentioned outside of this arc and why it will never be mentioned again. It also says a lot about how Soul Society feels about what happened with Koga, to be like, this thing that never happened and we're just going to sweep it under the rug and no one has to know. I think talks about how they might feel about how everything like turned out, especially given what the captain's involvement was and how they were concerned about his like abilities and wanted to kind of keep that at bay so that he wouldn't like become too powerful, and they were afraid of him being able to control them. But now we're getting an actual backstory with a little more detail, a bit more of Koga's perspective on what happened before he's like actually integrated into the plot of the story. I think that he's like a complex character, and that's something that I always like about Bleach, is that even when we introduce like villains and adversaries, there's always so many more layers to like who they are. Like they aren't just like evil and they want bad things to happen. There's so many complicated layers to who they are, and like not just in terms of let's make them like a complex character, or even the case of Aizen where there's like a bunch of different layers to just like what he's even trying to accomplish, and like going back to be like, oh, you had your hand in like all of these things, but it's just like the extra layers of humanity a lot of the times, even when they're like not human, but like adding in these different things where you can understand the motive of what they're doing. And I feel like even though I don't agree with like the methods with Koga, like I can understand this feeling of like injustice that has been done to him, and having a strong sense of justice and feeling like if I can't rely on Soul Society to like do the right thing, then maybe I do have to do something on my own. But he also has this sense of wanting to be acknowledged, right, for his efforts and to get a certain amount of honor and prestige, right? And I think that can be understood by a lot of people, even within Soul Society or whatever, but like wanting people to see him as someone worthy of looking up to, and to then use that as a way of bringing peace, like he said. And even though my thought of anyone who says at any cost, I'm like, ooh, red flag, any cost to uphold your beliefs usually means that we're going to get into morally ambiguous territory because you're just steadfast in that belief and you're unwilling to shift on it. But I think that his ultimate goal being like, I want to maintain peace, is ultimately good, but then it gets all intertwined with, but I also want acknowledgement, but I also want people to look up to me, but I also want to like finally be recognized by the people that I look up to and that I hold in this regard. And then it becomes like resentment and frustration and anger when that's not what happens. And the closest he got to acknowledgement is people going, yeah, he's powerful in a way that makes us uncomfortable. He's powerful enough that we don't trust him. And then that looping back around to be a negative for him, as opposed to people like thinking he's this amazing person, right? Like that other people in power and authority don't see him that way. I like getting that backstory. I like getting that like foundation for who he is as we go into the end of this arc, so that we can really understand like the motives behind like what he's doing and why he's making certain decisions. I do think it's going to cause some issues with Muramasa because he does want to be regarded as important, and Muramasa like has some of that of being like, you're much stronger than people give you credit for, but he also like doesn't want to feel controlled. He doesn't want to feel the same as other people. He doesn't want to feel like Muramasa is like pulling the strings. And I think also considering he holds those people in like high regard, right, in Soul Society, that when they say, we're not sure about your Zanbakuto, we're a little bit worried about it, that even though he might rebel against that, he might push back on that, the question has been raised in your subconscious, right? So I think that some of that is going to cause perhaps some issues between the two of them, even though I think ultimately we're probably going to work together because that's his Zanbakuto. But it's getting me interested. Been rocky parts to this filler arc, and I knew that kind of going in, that a filler arc is probably not going to be like the most, I guess, tight of the arcs, like the storytelling, like it wasn't going to be the most like intentionally put together in order to fit with the rest of the world building and everything. But I hope that at least at the end here, we start to pull some things together, especially I think when you know that you're going to have kind of an ending point to a story, you're less likely to meander your way through the end of it. So I'm hoping that we get perhaps some improved storytelling if this episode is anything. It's giving me more of what I think of when I think of Bleach, right? So I'm hoping that we get some more of that, but I hope you enjoyed watching that along with me. You can click this playlist to go to my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so next time I post a Bleach reaction. I will see you in the next video. Bye!